All right. So we are so excited today. We have Mr. Omari Booker, a local artist here in Nashville. He, like you just read the article from the Nashville magazine, he might not be making us tea, but he has graciously agreed, right, to come speak to our class. And just want to like commend him, right? He does have some tea. We just don't get to share with him today in person, but graciously, he has a ton going on. He's always very busy, both in the community and with all of his projects, and had some like personal stuff as well. So he though is making sure a man of his word to come see y'all's classes to talk to y'all about what we're gonna learn. So we have been learning about causal analysis. And at the end of the semester, you all are going to be able to talk about something that you are very passionate about, something that perhaps maybe you have been boxed in a way, stereotype, your community, your culture, anything like that. And I asked him to speak today based on how he has broken that, right? He has definitely developed his own identity, his own autonomy, with things he's passionate about, but definitely speaks out, definitely through his art, right? Talks about things that are important in the community, in the world. He, like I said, is always busy. He, in fact, is doing an exhibit, getting some people to pick up some things for an exhibit that will be at the Parthenon. So where some of you might have gone to the cultural event the last couple of weeks. He also has done events in the nation, right? He's done work at the Civil Rights Corps in Washington, D.C. He has done a ton of events and local art that you might have seen. You might have seen him on a billboard. I'm going to share the screen with everyone. So first and foremost, we are grateful for him coming on the fly. Like I said, it sounds kind of fangirl-like, but when I initially met him, right, I was just taken with some of his work. So I saw one of my friends lives in an apartment building downtown off Charlotte. And there is a piece of work there I'm going to ask him in a moment about, and I will shut up and let him speak. There's a mural. It's with a large group of murals off of Charlotte, and it looks like a young boy and a girl. What inspired that particular piece, Omari?
Yeah, it might be this second one, not the one with the Family Matters.
Oh no, it's not here. It's I think it's a girl with a pink dress on.
Oh,
And
okay,
yes, it's
definitely.
off Charlotte. Sorry.
That's my big sister.
Okay.
So yeah, my and thank you for such a gracious introduction. Yeah, I really appreciate that, and then thank the class for taking the time to, share some of the morning with me. But that's me and my sister. We grew up here in Nashville. She passed away when she was 24 and I was 22, and I had the opportunity to do a mural on that, really to submit for a project. They were kind of taking ideas to do this mural wall on Charlotte, and we spent a bunch of time at Hadley Park every summer. So, I mean, if you're at TSU, you're right next to Hadley Park. So we went to the community center and the tennis center, and that's where we would spend all our summer days. And so that connector sort of connects 28th Avenue and West End to the North Nashville area. I got to do a mural of the two of us there, and so yeah, just really special memorial, really, and also an opportunity to have some images of just Black people in natural life. Yeah, just really kind of a kind of normal everyday photo that my mom took that a lot of people's parents or grandparents or whoever would just snap when you're a kid. And so yeah, that's probably my favorite mural to date, and really grateful to have been able to do that.
Well, I love that you said that. That kind of transitions us to what I was going to talk about. So I like that you said Black people in everyday life, because we definitely want to talk about representation. That's what we've been talking about all semester. I really want to hear their stories. I want them to make their words known, make whatever their passions are known, regardless of how possibly they've been boxed in or how they feel. I heard the other day on a podcast, a Latina lady, she was saying like, I'm a comedian. She was like, and everybody always wants me to do like, what's the Latina experience like? And she's like, I can just live, right? I can just be myself as an individual, have my own autonomy. I don't have to always talk about the Latina experience. But with that being said, one of the mural visits I was doing with a friend, he wanted to go take some images to put on his website that stood out to him, that really were powerful to him in the community. And we were looking, and this was one of them. And this one definitely is right about civil rights. It's an image with John Lewis and several other community members that had participated in the civil rights movement here in Nashville. But while I was on that tour, then I saw another of Omari's pieces of work, and it has a caption on here. It says, "I live here," by Omari Booker. So that to me also stood out, because sometimes people are artists, sometimes people speak to areas, but they have not been there, right? They're observing it as kind of an outsider. But to me, it's really important and impactful that Omari has lived here, like you said, right? Since you were young, with your sister, with your family. So this particular piece, the caption was talking about like literally photos. So again, it kind of what you alluded to earlier was like a snapshot, but it's specific to people that live in Nashville. And it says that it is photo albums represented, memories depicted here, life experiences that were created this extraordinary community. And so here is the actual image, really beautiful. Looks like someone holding right and a memory and album open. And so again, I'm going to shut up and let Omari speak to this again. What inspired you to do this piece?
Yeah, and I can chat a little bit about both pieces. The first image, North Art Collective, who are some really good friends of mine who do incredible murals all around the city and country. Yeah, that was their piece, which I believe is called, I want to say "Family Matters" is the title of it. But yeah, freedom is a destination, not a journey. And then the Free Nation journey that's kind of highlighted is a pretty interesting little element of, yeah, just the Black experience. And I think the reality of, for the American dream to ever actually be what it has been sold as, then you have to experience that.
I think the Wi-Fi was cutting in and out just a little bit. Let's see if it will pause for a moment and correct itself. Hang on just a second. I'm gonna stop sharing. All right, can you hear me again? All right, thank you. Sorry, making sure we are just being flexible with the crazy Wi-Fi issues, Zoom life we are living now. All
Yes.
right, here we go. So you were speaking to this particular piece that you said some of your friends do here in Nashville that are definitely huge artists here in Nashville. So I'll let you speak again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've kind of shared most of the story about it. It's Diane Nash, John Lewis, I think maybe Jim Lawson. I don't remember exactly who all of the people are, but just in that idea of freedom is not a destination, it's a journey. And that just like those people were kind of taking their strides towards what they were hoping for, we're doing the same thing today. So yeah, that's I won't down that one for too long, but I love it. Yeah, it's right there on 26 and Clarksville Highway, I think. And then this is my mural that's in the same development. And yeah, the I live here. I did grow up in Nashville. I didn't live in North Nashville, but I spent a ton of time there. Really, my whole life worked there. I went to TSU also, so that's where I graduated. And I think the idea of, as developers, the development gentrification that's going on in the community, trying to find some ways to highlight that people are actually there. And I think that's something that in a really, really capitalistic system, people don't think about the reality that people actually live there. It's like they're talking a lot of like numbers and property and zoning and leave out the most important element of any community, and that's people, or any world. Like there isn't the reason Nashville is a popular place is because of the people. It's not because of the So yeah, so that was kind of what that sort of statement, "I live here,"
And
was showing some.
specifically in Nashville, not to cut you off, but I've told some of them, I'm like a huge history nerd, but I really hate the fact that people who come here as tourists to Nashville don't know that literally the reason Nashville got its little acronym or name Music City was because of the Fifth Jubilee Singers. So the whole reason we are known as the Music City was because of Black culture, because of Black history. So that is something I always want to emphasize. Can you speak to a little bit? I know you were alluding to gentrification and the actual community members, but some of the images I know you is zoomed in on, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 different images there.
Hmm. Yeah, well, the top left is a florist in the neighborhood who he has a flower shop. So he Mr. Carter. The bottom left, Brian Sexton, who actually works in affordable housing, and his 2 daughters. On the other side of the page, where there's a woman braiding someone's hair.
Sorry, I was trying to zoom in.
Mm-hmm. That's my mom braiding my uncle. So that's what that image is about. And above that one, to the right, I guess it'd be the left, but if you're looking at it to the right, that's from the TSU marching band. So yeah, that was that that image. And then below is a house, a home with a new development right next to an old home. And so yeah, that was kind of, yeah, I think a part of any I think a part of any artwork is trying to find ways to, share the message and also not make it so so overt that that there can't be that the viewer has some opportunity to kind of see what they see in it. So I did want to have that image of the housing and the development, but also wanted to have the images of everyday life and of this is the stuff that's going on in neighborhoods that that can really be compromised by just kind of massive development, which is, of course, is happening in North Nashville. You all, whether you live there or not, just driving to school, you're gonna see, yeah, up and down every street. It's changing quickly.
We talked about the other day very briefly in the class about some of the students obviously are not from Nashville. They don't know the complete history, but the bridge, right, that was put over basically to cut out, obliterate the North Nashville community livelihood. And it was definitely, right, known very like racist issue. And so now very, very recently, it seems after the Black Lives Matter protests and different things that are going on, it's like people are trying to be woke and they're trying to say, oh, we're going to fix things, we're going to change things. I think they're supposed to be proposing this road to get community, to get business back in that area, but just the fact that it was taken away in the first place is significant. And again, some of the students don't know that right there's so much history surrounding both TSU, Fisk, Meharry, all of that area around North Nashville, and how it was built up and who was there first, who were the founders who made history, and then how it was kind of taken, and they don't often get credit for so many pieces. Another thing that they looked at before you came in today was part of this interview, and what you were talking about, speaking to some of the work that you've done, both with the gentrification, but also I love how you use actual like tangible pieces, things that you can actually pick up in your artwork. So sometimes I've seen in some of his exhibits, he'll use like fabric that's symbolic to him in his art, or like these particular pieces that you all looked at on the interview. I'm going to let him speak to that. But what did that represent for you, Omari, or why did you choose to use that in your art?
Yeah, all those windows came from North Nashville housing. So as houses were being demolished and other, new construction was being erected and all over the area, I would save windows and burglar bars and doors, just all of the building materials that not only kind of represented in theory, but were legitimately the materials that built the neighborhood. and then incorporate artwork into those. And so that's where the windows came from. They were all from old North Nashville housing, probably anywhere from 20s, 30s, 40s. You know, those homes were built a while ago, and that's another another element to that story is not that, people that are anti-gentrification aren't anti-development. It's like, it's not that there's a pushback for having newer things, better business, whatever. It's the reality that development happens and then there's no Black people left, and so it's really not that we don't want the stuff in the neighborhood. We just want to have representation of the people that built the neighborhood,
right,
as it is being developed. And you can see East Nashville is a good example of a once pretty diverse community that, no longer is. 12 South, same thing. I think North Nashville has institutions like TSU, Fisk, American Baptist College, Meharry, and then just it has enough kind of roots in history that the change is happening, but I think it's happening with a lot more awareness in North Nashville than some of those other parts of town where it just went so quickly that it was kind of over before people really knew it. So
right. And some people like yourself, I know Omari is very humble, and he is like, he speaks, but he speaks through his images a lot. And if he's doing something like this or an interview, it is definitely coming out. But like he said, some of his art, he wants to speak for himself, right? Without a ton of explanation to let people interpret it as he will. But people like Omari in our community at TSU specifically, one of the history professors, Dr. Leah Rotha Williams, he is also another great person in the community who has helped hold on to those founders, to that history, who has set up some of those historical markers, who has highlighted the actual humans that lived here right before gentrification took place, to show that yes, there's still representation here, even if it's not talked about in the media, even if it's not as predominant. We also talked a little bit about how some people, right, they might get credit for something, but it comes across not necessarily intentionally as like the white savior. But there was an interview I had seen recently. Someone was interviewing Dolly Parton, and everyone, always thinks Dolly Parton's a great person. Nothing is wrong with her. She's great. She helps lots of different communities in her own area near Gatlinburg, but also with the Imaginary Library. And then specifically, someone asked her in an interview what was like her favorite purchase she had made with her money. And she was saying that the residuals that she had gotten from the song I Will Always Love You, after Whitney Houston sang it, she was like, I bought a piece of property in Nashville. And she was like, I did it for Whitney's people, but it has now been developed. And did that truly help the people in that community, or has now it become a source of like, this is like something I can get like an accolade for, or say that I helped? Has it helped the people in the community, or has it now been developed and now they're not represented in the community? It's kind of like what I always think and question when something like that comes out. Another piece more specific to Omari, some questions I had wanted to share. We had looked at first the arts, the Nashville art article, but then also this other article called with Nashville Interiors. And it was talking about what you alluded to earlier, that you are a TSU alumni, but that you had gone to Belmont first, right? You are definitely well-rounded. He had initially tried to study math, said it wasn't the right fit. And then you said actually later on, you got involved in art. So can you speak to a little bit about whatever you feel comfortable sharing, how you came to art? And then I know you've already talked about some of the things you're focusing on about the community, about social justice, but also things that you're interested in about injustice, about music, pop culture, anything that you might feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like you said, I was a math major. I kind of came out of high school playing sports and played college basketball. Didn't really know what I wanted to major in, but math was my best subject, so that was the direction that I went. probably my third year, I transferred. I mean, I changed majors to graphic design and studio art, and I transferred to MTSU, and that's really where I started. I started some artwork at Belmont, but a little bit more at MTSU. Then years later, I ended up transferring to TSU, and kind of in that in between, I had been out of school for a good while, had some mental health struggles. So I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. My sister passed away kind of in that in between too, kind of right after college, or right as I was still in school, and then pretty soon after, then I kind of got out of school and just was working in restaurants, and then had a charge where I had a drug possession that and ended up having to do 3.5 years. So had a prison sentence in between there that was pretty lengthy. It's actually a 15 that I got paroled out on. And when I made parole after going up the second time, that was probably, I wouldn't say like that was the start of making artwork consistently, but I think finding out how important it was for just my spiritual growth and therapy, and just finding out that it really helped me navigate life. I definitely think that was really solidified while incarcerated. And so in my second or third, probably second year, I was making artwork a bunch while inside, just drawing everything and doing little, portraits for people and cards and all kinds of stuff. And then as I got home, went back to restaurant work and did a couple years of that really consistently, car detail, and did every kind of job just to keep things going. And then eventually artwork made enough that I could gradually start cutting back from the other jobs and then just do artwork full time now. But it was, yeah, I mean, that probably those years of being gone were, yeah, I mean, I think just being in such a challenging space and having to really lean on artwork to make it through that really transitioned into me making artwork all the time. I'll show you a little bit of, if you can see that piece on the wall, which I'm not sure you can see it great, I may send you an image of it. But that was my high school, that was my TSU graduation gown, kind of wrapped in pill bottles and bars and stuff. But this is where I live. So as you can see, there's stuff everywhere. And
that one is huge.
So the art is definitely, yeah. Once I learned what it did for me internally, I kept doing it just really, really consistently until it turned into my life. So yeah.
And so could you ever have envisioned all those years back, like childhood, all the way up to when you were going to college, that you would be in a career now, full time, being an artist?
No.
No. And so you've like just totally taken back everything, right? That again, some of the articles, right, when people write a profile about someone, I just always really like to see what the person says versus like what someone might have interviewed them and had something in mind to talk about in a certain way. So I really like to hear from your perspective, right? And like now, again, you can see his art all over the community. He's always doing stuff. It's just amazing to me to see how many different spaces that you're permeating in such a positive way, and that you're sharing both very important subject matter, but things that other people are interested in. You are very much passionate about making it, fit what they want, but also it always has your style with it. And I love that. So like some of the pieces that I'm really interested in having done both for my personal home office and work office. Actually, this one behind, it has a little glare on it because of the glass, but that's one of his pieces. It's Obama saluting. He has the mask on. So obviously very pertinent with the times. But I had gotten another piece by him at an exhibit. And every one of them, it just seems to have a unique Omari flair. And I just really like that. Again, like I mentioned, some of them have fabric, some of them have like those window designs. One of them that we were talking about, he was going to do for my office, is about Zora Neale Hurston and talking about just her own autonomy as well, as a Black female artist, and how she was not recognized right when she was coming up, and then the information that she garnered when she was doing anthropology work with a Black gentleman that had come on one of the last ships that was illegal with the transatlantic slave trade, Barracoon. And Omari's going to do this really cool piece where he actually like burns parts of the art. And I just really like that like interactive flair he has with everything. And whenever I was telling about it, he was like, oh yeah, I'm doing this kind of like cool exhibit. And he showed me like a video he had. He always has like, it's not just art for him. I feel like everything just comes to life on the canvas. And when he posts his stories or he's advertising stuff, it's just, some people just do stuff for money or they're like invested, but I don't know. It just seems like there's always an Omari flair with it. So can you speak to that? Like what mindset do you have when you're doing art? Do you like zone in and you have to go to a certain spot or what kind of, I'll let you speak to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I so appreciate that. And yeah, there's, I think that it's pretty important to go ahead and make artwork or whatever the thing is that you like doing, whether you feel inspired or not. If you're not feeling it that day, you got to get up and clock in. It's like anything else. I mean, you're only going to feel like it a percentage of the time, but usually once you get into it, the mode will hit you. You'll kind of get in the zone or whatever. But it's like a sport, you don't feel like practicing every day, but you got to go and, you got to go get in there, especially if you love what you're doing. And I think I'm inspired just by like the artists that I really like and appreciate. I mean, most of it was more music than, because I wasn't a visual artist as a kid. I didn't really grow up having like huge admiration for, visual artists. It was like, I mean, hip hop artists were the artists that I was most inspired by. Jay-Z was probably the biggest too. I mean, he'd be old to the students, most of the students there, but I mean,
Beyonce connection, they might.
Yeah, he was one of the, I mean, now like current artists, Griselda, the three artists from Buffalo that I really, really appreciate. Nipsey was one that I've and so a lot of my inspiration kind of came from artists that seemed really authentic and that they were kind of that their art was an extension of them. And so I think that's probably the thing that hopefully comes across is that anything that I make is, feels authentic, because it is. It's just an extension of whatever, mood I'm in or whatever I'm inspired by. It's yeah, I think those were, and I think also the entrepreneurial spirit and sort of the business spirit of some of those musicians, where they kind of found ways to take ownership of what they were making. And I mean music took some huge shifts, because of hip hop culture. Like, I mean, musicians were getting, and I'm not telling, this is like old news, of course, to younger people, but I mean, if you did any research about the deals from the 70s and 80s, the Michael Jackson deals, the Luther Vandross deals, and then you start looking at what Master P did and what Jay-Z did, and some of the artists that really took like intense ownership. And a lot of the ownership was because their stuff wasn't allowed into mainstream culture initially. And I think that my work is kind of similar. I mean, I didn't get a bunch of gallery invites or expo, whatever. I mean, it's kind of sometimes through necessity, you can kind of find ways to make your own stuff work for you, and can continue to believe in what you're making. But I was really influenced by a lot of those artists and how they went about their careers, and also the authenticity of the work that they made. And I'm sure, artists that are coming out right now, I wouldn't try to speak to whatever is popular to someone that's 20 years younger than me, but I'm sure that the same thing is happening. Whoever you're inspired by, pay attention to you'll almost always find a line of authenticity, like it's usually not something that is just created to make money or just created to whatever. I mean, even I think about athletes or, writers, scientists, people don't go in and do, I don't think anybody does great things just to make money. Like money isn't a good enough motivator. You're going to get enough of it. And then most people never have enough of it anyway. So trying to identify the thing that you really love doing and consistently pursuing that, that's that's kind of been the thing that's worked the best so far, one day at a time.
That's what I was kind of lecturing them on all this last week, was saying, don't ever let anyone else influence you or tell you what you need to be doing, because then even though someone you might have reverence for or respect them and they might be helping you pay for things, right? If it's really worth it and you are willing to do it on your own, sometimes your decisions and what you want to do, what you're passionate about really matter. But I like that you gave them a mini lecture, and you might not have even inadvertently realized it when you said, you just, even if it's something you're passionate about, it's still a job. You have to clock in, you have to put in the work and grit every day. So I love that. But while he was speaking, this is his actual website, omaribooker.com. And I just wanted to show some more pieces. And again, while he was speaking, everything just kind of flows and manifests together. So he was talking about musical artists. He has Nipsey Hussle on here for that third one. He was talking about authors. He has James Baldwin. If you notice on the piece, what I was speaking to, how he does these interactive pieces, that is like book pages burnt behind with the image of James Baldwin bleeding through. Then he has images, of course, of the community, different pieces. They all have this interactive piece. You can see the fabric behind the Nipsey Hussle. And I know this other piece has fabric on it too, because I've seen it live with the girls hugging in the street. The fabric is there on their shirts. Yeah. He also has Tupac here, with images of, I'm not sure if that's his poetry or song lyrics. And then
Bible, those were scriptures.
Bible, okay. And then he has a Colin Kaepernick, of course, with him kneeling, with everything that has transpired with that controversial issue with the NFL, and the symbolism you can see behind that. I'm not going to speak to let it influence you or let you make your own inferences about the art. And then going down, of course, This Is America. So another musical artist. And then he has The Marathon Continues with Nipsey Hussle, and of course the Lorraine Motel there in Memphis with MLK. So do you want to speak to any of those particular images of your art? Or I know you've shared so much with us today. I don't want to take up so much of your time, but we really appreciate it. And we're inspired by you. I hope you know that you're definitely helping to influence, I know, future artists, people with passions, all kind of stuff today. You spoke to a lot.
Well, I appreciate that. I would just, I probably won't speak to any of them specifically, but I'll just say message. Yeah, feel free to message me anytime. If with a question about anything, I'll always message back. And, but yeah, I think all of those pieces were, yeah, some of my favorites. I mean, probably the James Baldwin was my favorite. I mean, or is one of my favorites. It's just, he's one of those artists that, you know, if you read him right now, it's just as powerful as when he wrote it. You know, and it might be even more so in 20 years. It's like, it continues to be so true because he was kind of right at the heart of just so many important things. So yeah, I mean, and he's another good example of someone who, you know, who kind of followed his path as a writer until it took. I mean, so many of these people weren't, you know, weren't instantly like successful, but they knew that what they were doing was, they loved what they were doing. They knew that it was important. And so now, like, his work is really, really important to us. Like, he's my favorite, you know, author. Yeah, for sure. Favorite writer.
Some of y'all, I know some of y'all hate English or it's not your thing, but James Baldwin is definitely worth it. If you have not had a favorite author yet, he is timeless. What Omari was saying, right? He is definitely inspirational. But at the time when he was writing, similar to Zora Neale Hurston, oftentimes he was not respected. Some of his ideals were very, very radical at the time. And even still, people wouldn't agree. He even literally chose to leave the United States because of that. I think he lived in France, didn't he?
Yeah, Istanbul, and then in Paris. So he lived two places outside of the country. He would keep coming back because, I mean, that's just the reality of being from here. Is there really nowhere else is home, even though you're often not treated like you're at home here. It didn't home anywhere else either. So there was a good minister. He was talking about someone from the civil rights movement, but the era that he spoke of was when America didn't want you and Africa didn't know you. And I mean that was kind of a real thing. That I think that's part of my responsibility to this place. It's like Nashville. There are a lot of things about Nashville that don't make it feel like home, but it's definitely home. And so I kind of feel the need to do as much as I can to make it the best place that I can. So.
Well, I am not sure if you can still hear me. Are you able to hear me?
I can.
Okay. So it's doing something a little weird with the visuals, but I can still hear you. So I definitely want to thank you so much for coming to speak to our class today. We, again, applaud you. I love your work. I can't wait for some of the students now to hopefully hop out into the community. They're getting to explore a little bit more, some of them that are not from here, and definitely either make their own way right in their community, wherever they decide to be, or be inspired by people who are putting their own stamp, going with their own autonomy, regardless, again, of how others might try to box you in, or no matter what, right, your circumstances are, you can definitely make your own way, even if it is very, very difficult at times.
For sure. Well, thanks so much for having me. And October 28th, you all are all welcome to come out to the Parthenon. I think it's from 5 to 8 or 6 to 9, but I'll send you the specifics on that. But October 28th at the Parthenon, we'll have the opening for this exhibit that's going to be there.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, Omari, and I'll definitely share that with them, and tell them to look you up on social media, Facebook, Instagram, all that, because he definitely is present there and all of his work. So you can continue seeing that and being inspired. All right. Thank you so much.
You bet. We'll see you soon. Thank you. This was great.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks.